Now, there have been at least 7 to 8 days since the Pahalgam attack. The hunt for the terrorists is on. There is a lot of anger with Pakistan, but India has been behaving in a very mature fashion. It has been molding international opinion against Pakistan, taking measures economically to isolate the country, and also evaluating different military responses. The Prime Minister has been holding a series of high-level meetings over the last few days. Just yesterday, he held a meeting with NSA Ajit Doval, with Rajnath Singh, the Defence Minister, the 3 service chiefs, and the message was that we will inflict a crushing blow on terrorism. Secondly, the armed forces chiefs have the operational independence to decide the timing and the response to the Pahalgam attack. Today, there was a very important meeting of the Union Cabinet, of the CCPA and the Cabinet Committee on Security as well, where India's responses were once again reviewed. Let's also not forget that yesterday, after the meeting of the Prime Minister with the service chiefs, Home Minister Amit Shah visited 7 Lok Kalyan Marg, which is the Prime Minister's official residence in New Delhi, and also RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat too visited the Prime Minister and had a meeting with him. Now, the meeting with the service chiefs went on for at least a good 35 to 40 minutes. On the border, the Pakistani government, the army, have been violating the ceasefire. They have violated the ceasefire at multiple locations across the line of control and the international border over the last 6 days. India has retaliated very effectively as well. Just at the international border, we're told last evening, around 8:15 and 9:15, between this period, at least 1,000 rounds are fired by forces on both sides. So India remains at a very high alert. Also in Jammu and Kashmir, we're looking at intense counter-terror operations in Pahalgam, in Kupwara and other areas. Joining us right now to break down the government strategy, the defense strategy right now, we have with us Kanwal Sibal, currently a Chancellor at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. He has also been India's Foreign Secretary and former Ambassador to the US. We've got former diplomat Phunchok Stobdan. Also, Major General Dhruv Katoch of the India Foundation is also with us. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Major General Katoch, how do you see India's response coming in? Because the Pakistani army has been saying India does not have a shred of evidence. They've been violating the ceasefire quite regularly. What do you think the Pakistani army, the government, is trying to do at this stage? And how would you describe India's response and strategy to a viewer?
Thank you, Parikshit. I think the Indian response has been very measured. Firstly, as soon as the dastardly attack took place, it didn't take very long for us to find out where the electronic signatures were coming from. And that was traced to 2 locations within Pakistan. So the Pakistani hand was confirmed. And after that, the ball was set rolling in a series of actions which were announced. And in the yesterday's meeting and in today's meeting, I think both these meetings are very important because they are setting out the future course as to what is going to be our response. Now, the Prime Minister had made it very clear that there will be a response. So the political will has been shown. So the government is firmly behind, the nation is firmly behind the government, and the nation is united in this particular effort. So here in India, we have consolidated all our energies, political, diplomatic, military, onto what we hope to achieve as a desired end state. On the Pakistani side, I'm afraid there has been a bit of a confusion. Their ministers have been talking in different voices, and mostly they have been threatening, even going as far as to talk of using a nuclear option, which in my personal opinion, I think is quite absurd. But that notwithstanding, the very fact that the border has been ratcheted up by the Pakistanis and they're resorting to firing, in my view, they're trying to get the world opinion. They want to get the world leaders to put pressure on both the countries to maintain a status quo. Now, that is not going to happen. Regardless of what world leaders say, there will be a response from the Indian side. That response will be severe. When it takes place and how it takes place, we will see in the course of time. Those things cannot be discussed nor disclosed. But what can be stated with certainty is the Prime Minister has a resolve, the government has got a resolve, the people of India are resolved, and there will be action to avenge what has happened on the 22nd of April. Parikshit.
Right. Right. Ambassador Sybil, if I could get you in on the implications of any retaliation, what do you think the calculations would be when we're looking at our military options? One also has to keep in mind that what happens with Pakistan cannot be looked at only as a Pakistani problem. You have the involvement of China that we need to look at as well. What do you think are the diplomatic and geopolitical implications of any military move by India?
Well, it's a very difficult decision that government of India has to take because it will not be cost-free. If we go in for a military option, Pakistan is bound to react. Their entire, self-image has always been that they will hit back very strongly. They have the means to do so. They are very gung-ho, very aggressive. They have to therefore prove that the huge military machine that they have built over the years, which has monopolized a large part of the budget of the state, means something. If the Pakistan military is the ultimate defender of the idea of Pakistan and Pakistan itself, the Pakistani army chief in his recent speech has more or less again reiterated this in a very, very aggressive and Islamic way, then they have to react, and they have the means to react. Therefore, we have to see how we calibrate it, how we avoid escalation, what targets we use. We put the onus on Pakistan for escalation. On our side, our, I think, objective would be to attack terror-related targets rather than the military machine of Pakistan. So, insofar as China is concerned, China is the biggest arms supplier to Pakistan. They have huge stakes in Pakistan. It's nothing new. They have used Pakistan strategically to counter India. They'll continue to do so, even as they try and maintain some kind of an equilibrium with India. They'll give access to arms from China. Turkey is also getting into the fray, as we see. But the possibility of China militarily intervening in the conflict, to my mind, is not there. I don't think that'll happen because that, after all, if we are actually taking military action against Pakistan for the terrorist attack that they have staged, and not now, this is a long-standing instrument of policy that they pursued. China is not being attacked. We have our differences with China, which we are trying to resolve. There's some forward movement that has taken place. Now, if China were to intervene, actually the entire facade of a responsible power, and currently under pressure from the America, they want to project this to the rest of the world, that they're not like the Americans, they're not aggressive, they believe in peace, and they like to promote peace, they're a reliable power, that kind of propaganda, that kind of line that they give. So that will be totally exposed. And for what? It will be seen as a hugely opportunistic move and create far more distrust for China in the years to come if they were to do so, because they'll be responsible for enlarging the conflict by bringing themselves in. So I don't think there's a threat there, but they support China. They support Pakistan fully diplomatically in the United Nations, make public statements, try to put the onus on India, project India as not being responsible, as not being willing to have a dialogue and resolve these things peacefully. You know, the usual kind of line countries take. That'll be there. But at the end of it, I'll conclude by saying that we will react. All the meetings that are taking place, all the statements that are being made are a prelude to some action. But what action will take place? What will be the scale of that? Whether it will be, to begin with, a one-off thing, and then leave it to Pakistan to escalate, and then put the onus of Pakistan for enlarging the conflict. Let's see what happens.
All right. All right, Ambassador Sybil. Let me also get in Ambassador Stobdan right now. Ambassador Stobdan, what do you see the role China would play in case there is any kind of retaliation? And when you do a retaliation, there is always a risk of escalation. So keeping that in mind, and looking at the geopolitical and trade tensions globally right now, and considering that India a weaker India may be good for a stronger China. What role do you think China could play over the next few weeks and months in trying to destabilize the security environment, the investment environment in India?
I think that's a very long question, but I think according to the Wang Yi statement, there's nothing such noises have been made by the Chinese. They only said that there should be inquiry, there should be impartial investigation into what has happened. There's some diplomatic support, but beyond that, they even haven't said anything even on the water. So the fact of the matter is China is also involved in Indus. It's an upper riparian country, from Kailash. Therefore, it's a huge point that Chinese are avoiding. I don't think they have any thinking also in this regard. I don't see, and I think from the previous experience, I don't see Chinese are doing such stupid things like intervening. Okay, military sales, arms sales, that is all right. The only worried part now I am is that that J-35, jets that would be supplied, some 40 of them to the Pakistanis. That will upset the balance. Although I'm sure that we have adequate preparation of the aircraft, the air superiority has to be maintained. In the case of Indo-Pakistan, I think conflict, it's not like India-China conflict. Indo-Pakistan conflict, we need to think about the air power. Of course, the blockage of the sea is all right, that is possible. But the air power has to be very, very, very sure about it, because we are very close to whatever we are doing. I mean, they could hit any of the river side or dam side or any strategic side. We are very close to the Pakistani border. Unless those things are taken care of, I don't see in the first place all-out war this time. There would be, should put something here and there, but if possible, maybe in my area, in Turtuk sector, we could take something like 80 kilometers depth in the POK. That's the only advantage I see. But in the Cham sector, in the Rajasthan sector, I don't see we can do much. Hitting targets there, that's possible. But all-out war, I don't think. But my own sense is that after a week from now, they will force General Modi to step down and diffuse the tension. That's how,
Right.
that is how things are going to work out. It's not going to be very, very, we have also seen that we may talk about all these things, but ultimately you land up, even with China, you have to think seriously about war.
Absolutely. You know, we've just got a statement also that the Director General of Military Operations of India and Pakistan talked over hotline yesterday to discuss the unprovoked ceasefire violations by Pakistan. India warned Pakistan against the unprovoked violations by Pakistani army along the line of control and the international border. Major General Katoch, if I were to get you in at this stage, how would you describe this strategy by Pakistan? Now, what we are given to understand that there have been 15 ceasefire violations by Pakistan in 2025. 6 or 7 of those have happened in the last 1 week itself. And it's happening in a couple of areas where Pakistan perceives that it has a dominance against India. Why is this happening? Of course, the Indian army is also retaliating. Also on cyber attacks. While there are ceasefire violations taking place, there have been cyber attacks on certain army-related websites by Pakistani state actors. Why do you think these two facts are taking place on the ground?
Well, firstly, as far as the firing which is taking place on the international border in some places and generally on the line of control, I think that is in my view, it's a war avoidance strategy by the Pakistanis. They want they want the borders to heat up and escalate to a level by which the world will start getting concerned and then put pressure on both the countries to desist. They will in that process they would like to avoid what India aims to do. That we've already made a statement that there will be consequences to Pakistan on what they have on the 22nd April attack. Now, I think it is to avoid that they are doing this the minor escalation along the border to avoid something bigger cropping up later. But that's not really going to happen because India is not going to be concerned about international opinion or any country putting pressure. We have made up choice and we will go ahead with what we are doing. On cyber, I think that is ongoing. Cyber is not something new which is happening now. The cyber attacks have been ongoing by various people. It could be the Chinese, could be the Pakistanis and others. And this time being, when the hostilities are ratcheting up, I think the cyber attacks will also ratchet up. I'm quite certain that we'll be from the Indian side, similar attacks must be taking place on the Pakistani side too. So that is simply a part of non-kinetic warfare, which will continue all the year round. Parikshit.
I'm running out of time, Major Katoch. I'll put one final question to Ambassador Sibbal. Ambassador Sibbal, as we evaluate our different options right now, how do you think our cooperation with the US, with Israel, help us right now in tackling what's happening in Pakistan and also on a long-term basis?
Look, United States has not been able to tackle Pakistan all these years, despite their war on terror. In fact, if you look at Pakistan's record, they have hurt United States interests very deeply over the years. There's been a Pakistan hand even in the World Trade Center bombing. United States certainly, unlike in the past, can give us diplomatic cover. Even when we had the Balakot operation, President Trump in his first term had said that India has a right to self-defense. And now, and it's actually something which we should be glad that the United States at the highest level has been very supportive of India on this terrorist attack that took place at the level of Trump himself, Vice President Vance, the Secretary of State, the Deputy Secretary of State, the FBI Director, the Director of National Intelligence, the Attorney General. All these people have issued very supportive statements, which means, and then President Trump himself has said, let the two countries sort this out themselves, which means he has given us some kind of a green light to go ahead and decide what should be the level of our military action or other actions against Pakistan. They have not criticized the fact that we have suspended the Indus Waters Treaty. In fact, none of the countries who are our partners, Western countries, have said anything to this effect. So therefore, to that extent, if we decide to take military action, I don't think we will have problems with the United States. Of course, China will immediately go to the UN Security Council and insist on a discussion there to ward off the conflict and that sort of a thing. And that's where the support from the United States, France, Russia, and others would become very critical and important. And I think we will get it. But at the end of the day, no country is going to publicly support the idea of a conflict between India and Pakistan. That's part of the international system. At best, they can keep quiet and say the usual, that there should be restraint on all sides and war is not a solution, and there should be de-escalation, reduction of tension, and dialogue. That kind of thing would be said, but that need not worry us too much if we decide to take some action on the ground. But it has to be a very calibrated action, in my mind.
Okay, we've run out of time. Thank you very much, Major General Katoch, Ambassador Sibbal, and Ambassador Stobdan for joining us. We'll take a break, but don't go anywhere. When we return, we'll talk about the Indo-US trade negotiations. And Donald Trump is saying that he's very hopeful of having a trade deal with India very soon. Let's talk about that with Jayan Das Gupta, former Indian ambassador to WTO. We'll be right back.